Welcome to another recorded webinar session for my diabetic desk. My name is Charity Wanyonyi. I'm the founder of the Diabetic Desk, a platform or a space where we discuss all things diabetes because I'm passionate about diabetes. And I know if you're watching, you're so passionate about it and you're here to learn. So today we're going to talk about practicality or practical use of nutrition care process. This is just a case study. I'll be taking you through my thought process and I'll want us to discuss more. So feel free to also dive in and leave in the comments your thoughts and everything you think about the whole diabetic care process. That today we're going to look at diabetes type 2, yeah, because that is where my specialization is. So, what is the nutrition care process? This is a standardized framework for nutrition professionals, just like any other professionals that have their own framework of how they do their assessment. For us, is the nutrition care process, and it's universal to ensure consistency and quality in the care we offer our clients and our patients. It has four key steps that you're going to look at one of each, and I'm going to give an example, the case study, and you're going to break them down using the assessment, the diagnosis, the intervention, and then monitoring and evaluation. So I'll want when I'm giving this case study, you can also contribute in your own little way in the comments how you will have managed that patient. I would love to interact with more with you guys. Most of the time, the nutrition care process is patient centered, or the NCP is patient centered, and it's individualized. It can be adapted across all condition. This patient or client of mine has diabetes type 2. You'll meet a patient with diabetes type 1, or a client, you'll meet a patient on a weight loss journey, a client on a weight loss journey, gut cleanse, everything. The whole nutrition care process is adaptable, but it has the standard assessment, diagnosis, intervention, monitoring, and evaluation. Yes. So evidence based and decision making. So anything that is done under the nutrition care process is evidence based and it guides most of our decisions. So even if you're a student practicing framing your nutrition work, these four steps: assessment, diagnosis, intervention, monitoring, and evaluation will help you think more systematically and it will help guide you. Why am I saying this? Because when you do a wrong assessment, you're going to have a wrong diagnosis, you're going to have a wrong intervention, and when you monitor and follow after you measurable with those smart goals after your time bound, you're going to see no result. That's why you'll find most patients complaining, and nilienda nikaambiwa na huyu, let me do this and this, but when I did it, it didn't work. So you really have to be thorough when you're doing your assessment because it's going to guide your diagnosis and the interventions you're going to put in place. So now let's dive into our patient's profile. This is anonymous. Along the way, you might have encountered someone with this, but this is anonymous, not tailored to anyone. But here is our patient, Mary. She's 52 years old. She's a female. She has type 2 diabetes and has been living with it since diagnosis 5 years now. Her weight, she's 82. Her height is 160 centimeters, that is 1.6 meters. When we calculated her BMI is 32, that is obese. She leads a sedentary life. She's stressed from the work she's doing. And her main complaint when she came to me was, I want to control my sugars without feeling starved. And most of the time, when you do your dietary assessment, you'll find most of these people don't like eating what they're being told. So you'll find that they find the diet very restrictive. That's why we don't like lumping it as a diabetic diet. There's nothing like that. We just tell them to eat healthy and help them monitor their portion control, their portion sizes, and the quality and quantity of the food they are eating. When creating fictional or real cases, include the age, medical history, lifestyle, and the patient goal. Because I feel like this paints a full picture. Why did I put this subtopic here? Because if you follow me on Monday, I have my case studies with Charity, and I share some of the case studies, and I would love for us to discuss and interact and learn from those case studies. So when you're thinking of going towards this route to create content, make sure you give us a full picture, because when I introduce Mary to you, you already know what her chief complaint is and what you can work with. And then now you'll go and do further assessment on your own to know, like, deep down, what is the problem. Why is Mary feeling like she's being starved? And when they feel like they're being starved, it means they're not going to really follow what you're telling them. So on assessment, this is data collection from the 24 diet recall or 24-hour recall. She eats white bread and sweet tea in the morning, ugali with little vegetables, mandazi soda as her snacks, rice beans as her supper. And from the lab works, the HB1C was 9.2, fasting was 11.2. You know that is high. Even for the HB1C, that is quite high. The anthropometry, we know her weight was 82. Her height was 1.6 meters. When you calculate that, BMI was 32, which is obese class 1. I wish we would have gone further. So if you have such a patient, go further, do a body composition to know that the amount of fats she has in her body. That will be so good. These days we are moving from only using BMI, we're moving to also using biometrics. In our lifestyle assessment, the A, B, C, D, E, F. She lives a sedentary lifestyle, minimal exercise on her end, poor sleep because of stress. And then when she gave you the chief complaints, she said, I want to control my sugars without feeling starved. That should tell you something about her psychosocial. She has a belief that healthy food is boring. That is my own recollection from what her complaint is. Because when you're doing assessment, you have to do an overall lifestyle assessment, not just the weight and the height and the diet. Because the diet can be okay, the weight can be okay, but the sugars are still high because of the lifestyle the person is leading. So always check both medical data, behavioral pattern, mindset often drives food choices. That's a way. When your mindset is okay, you'll tend to eat a little bit more healthier. When you're stressed, you know who you run to. Yes. So from what we have collected here, now we are coming to our nutrition diagnosis, and we're going to use the PES statement. If you follow our nutritionist corner, Lillian talked at length about the nutrition assessment, the NCP in detail. That's why I'm not diving deep into it. So we're going to look at the problem. So from my own findings, you can also come up with your own PES statement in the comments. Let's discuss. Excessive refined carbohydrate intake. Let's go back to her diet record. White bread, ugali. I'm sure the ugali is white. Mandazi, rice. Etiology related to preference of starchy, sugary food. Sweet tea. I'm sure that sweet tea is sweeter. Mandazi, soda. Yes. Signs and symptoms. HbA1c of 9.2, like we saw on the labs. And also you can use fasting of 11.2, and frequent tea, bread with sugar. And also you can see the BMI is 32, which is obese class 1. So from that PES recollection, I'm going to come up with a statement. Excessive refined carbohydrate intake related to habitual consumption of bread, soda, and sweetened tea, as evidenced by a HbA1c of 9.2% and a BMI of 32, or you can say fasting glucose of 11.2. You can also say sedentary lifestyle or inactivity. Akipesa unisumbua. Inactivity related to sedentary lifestyle, as evidenced by a BMI of 32. So you can come up with your own. So your diagnosis will guide the targeted interventions you want to put in place. So keep your PES statement short and specific. It should point you directly to what needs to be changed. From my PES statement, we need to change her excessive intake of carbohydrates, and also going to want to change her habitual consumption of, because this is a habit, so that you can have an improved outcome when it comes to HbA1c, and also the BMI and also the fasting. So that will be my targeted. And when you go to the intervention slide, that is what I'll be tackling. So for the intervention, I divided it into two. We're going to start with the nutrition education and practical strategy, because for me, I believe you have to teach first. Even you look at the intervention, you usually start with counseling and education before now we go to supplement, therapeutic feeds, and all the others. So you start by teaching Mary. You teach what healthy eating looks like. I'm going to teach her how to balance her diet, how to include variety, and how to moderate so that she doesn't feel like she's being starved or she's having a boring, I'm quoting, a boring diet. I'm trying to look at the camera. So you introduce the plate model. When you're teaching, because the plate model will be able to guide her portion control. Explain the role of whole grains in blood sugar control. Reinforce her statement. She says she doesn't want to feel starved. Reinforce no foods are banned. Focus on balance and not restriction. Because the moment you start telling your clients to restrict, that is when they will start feeling starved. You know human beings. Oh, ameniambia nisikule hii. Oh, huyu ananiambia, so he will go look for someone mwenye ata validate what to eat. And then akifika mahali na aone, you know what, I'm not doing this, atarudi back to eating her mandazis. Now mandazis are sweet and soda. Yes. So we're going to look at the plate model. This is a universal tool. Half of the plate is vegetables. The other quarter is starch or fiber or complex carbohydrates. Um, and then the other quarter is the lean protein. So you explain to her. I told you guys about the teach back method. Encourage questions, encourage a conversation so that you can get more of why she's feeling like the diet is starving her. Because the moment una urine, like unajipata it's one sided, it means the person on the other side is not listening to you. Because if you've ever been in an interactive session with a client, you really know when the client is listening to you and when your client is not listening to you or is not interested. So if there's question from the client, umemfunza, and then you're like, ebu, ni nini umeelewa from kitu nimesema? The plate model, kesho tutakula nini? Anakwambia nitajaribu nitafute cabbage niweke hapo, niende nitafute let's say maybe anataka kukula ngwashe and some lean kuku hapo kama she can afford. So akikwambia hivyo, you understand, you've reinforced that plate model, at least ameshika. But ukimuuliza na anakuangalia, it means Mary was not listening to you. And of course, she's going to still feel like it's a restriction or she's starved. So from there, we're going now to look at the actionable changes, because for me, I usually want my clients to have a goal in mind. So now you've taught her, you've told her about the whole grains, the importance, the plate models, the lean, the healthy fats, the importance of including vegetables in the diet. Now you're going to now start the habit changing. Now, what can be done? You replace the refined carbs with whole grains, because she now understands the importance of whole grain in glycemic control. Gradually reduce the tea, because the sugar, hata pia mi nimepambana, at least sahii nimefika 1.5 teaspoons from 3. So you start gradually, you tell her napenda sukari. Of course, I'm thinking it's more than 3 tablespoons to make the twist sweet. So you reduce from the 3 to 2.5 to 2 to 1 to a half, until you get to a point where you've limited the amount of added sugar in a day. Explain the importance of swapping the soda and mandazi with fruits and nuts for snacks. Educate her on the importance of healthy snacks. Use the plate techniques for portion control. Sasa muonyeshe penye anaweza nunua hiyo plate, and then you show her like this is how the plate. Send her resources, send her pictures, check and tell her this is how your plate is supposed. Encourage her to be sending pictures. These days tuko na era of WhatsApp. Someone can easily send a photo to you. For accountability, tell her to at least add one fruit or vegetable serving every meal. Mwambie kwa sahani yake, every time there should be at least a vegetable or a fruit. The patient must understand why before they commit to the how. And this has really worked wonders for me. Hata mi mtu akiniexplainia something, I'll want to understand where are you coming from so that I can do what you want me to do. So we're going to look at another section of intervention, because you also collected the lifestyle aspect, the sedentary, the poor sleep, the stress management. So you also explain, educate, counsel first before you now give your practical support. Explain the link between lifestyle and blood sugar, because most of the people just assume our diet is the one that is causing most harm. Explain how physical inactivity aids with insulin insulin resistant, how stress, how sleep deprivation and lack of hydration causes insulin resistance, and how when you start walking 20 to 30 minutes a day or after a meal, how you manage your stress, your sleep quality, 7 to 9 hours, hydrate at least 2 liters in a day, how it's going to improve your insulin sensitivity. Just explain, they will understand. Emphasize that diet alone isn't enough. Lifestyle habits reinforce and strengthen what we have talked about when it comes to diet management. Highlight the benefit of the daily habit. Now you start with consistency. Encourage the person to choose one or two areas to start. Don't just bulldozer doing everything. Pick one habit or two habits from the nutrition and two habits from the lifestyle and to start from there, and continue reassuring her during your follow-up. It's about progress and not perfection, because you're building a lifestyle, and lifestyle are built from 3 months of actively creating and following a habit. So going now to look at the practical or actionable changes. Walking 15 to 20 minutes after a meal. This improves sugar control. Now she understands why. Replace sugary drinks with water and sweetened option. She understands why from the nutrition counseling you've done. Stress management. Give her techniques. For me, I usually like to give them, but if I can, I usually send them to the mental health specialist, the psychologist, because I know in most diabetic clinics they are there to help with just the whole processing of having or living with diabetes. Prayer, breathing, anything that can be able to help Mary, give it to her or send her to someone who can help. Tell her the importance, to already explain the importance of good quality sleep, encourage her to sleep 7 to 8 hours and to go to bed every day at the same time. Like kama analala 10 every day at 10 ajipate kwa kitanda, ndio you create a routine. If Mary has the husband, the family, the kids, involve them in what you're educating her so that they can be able to help her, if they can work together, if they can share the healthy meal so that she doesn't feel like she doesn't have support. And support, like I talked about in the first pre-recorded webinar, family support is very key. Because Mary cannot be eating this na familia yake, mtu anapika chips huko anakula. Of course, she's going to want to eat that. Yes. Make lifestyle changes family inclusive, and it increases her chances of adherence. So when it comes to monitoring and evaluation, and this is the last step of our NCP, what to monitor, you look at the biochemicals. So you're going to look at Mary's HbA1c and fasting. You're going to look at her BMI. If we took her waist circumference, her weight, we're going to look at that. Dietary adherence. Are you going to look at if she's using the plate model, if she has reduced her sugar intake, has she incorporated the whole grains like we talked about? If you've noticed, it's a journey I've been taking you through. From what you have assessed, it's what you're going to diagnose, it's what you're going to put intervention to, and that is what you're going to monitor and evaluate. Patient feedback. Ask her, Mary, una feel aje? How are you feeling? She will tell you the energy, the mood, the craving, how satisfied she is, her sleep quality, and everything. And from there, you'll get to know if you can continue with what you have in mind or you're going to change. So HbA1c from Mary, this is hypothetical, dropped to 7.5, which is almost good. Weight dropped from 82 to 78. This is after 3 month evaluation, and then reports more energy, fewer craving. You see, when you get such feedback, you know the science evidence base of the NCP you've put in place is working. So the outcome and reflection for me, structured NCP most of the time equates to a measurable result. Because if you know what your diagnosis and what you're intervening, you're going to get the outcome you're looking for. And right now, Mary feels empowered because you've not only given her practicality, but you've also counseled and educated her. The gradual change works better. Hata wewe mwenyewe, the gradual change, when you're changing your habits, when you're creating new habits, you're doing it gradually. You just don't wake up and do it And for me, it works better than kumwambia usikule, usifanye hii, fanya hivi. No, gradual change. You pick one step and change. Work with her, because with nutrition, you're sort of like a coach. You're working with your client. Yes, both labs and lifestyle have improved. If you can see from this slide, foundation for long-term diabetes control is nutrition based and lifestyle based. So the reflection is just to help you learn. Ask yourself what works and what didn't work. So if you could go back to this slide and you found the HbA1c still at 9.2 or even more, her weight is from 82 to 88 or 90, you'll ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Mary Stills reports, bado nasikia kukula, natamani sukari and all that, do not have energy. So you might now go back and assess and do and find out what the problem is. So thank you so much. And the key takeaways from this session is NCP provides a structure for effective care, as you have seen. Always tailor intervention to the patient context. From the assessment, you're going to get the social economic profile of your patient. So tailor it to meet that. Usimwambie machakula zenye the patient cannot afford. Educate first, then practical steps later. Let her or him understand why you want to do what you want to do. And lifestyle plus diet plus lifestyle change work best together, because lifestyle has 7 pillars. Each pillar has to be in balance for it to have a good lifestyle, because you cannot have a patient mwenye akona stress, relationship problems, and you're telling her to eat well, akona stress, atalala vizuri, which is going to interfere with just the whole thing. So you'll find that hata ukimcancel on the diet and the other aspect and all the other pillars are not okay, you're doing nothing. Yeah. So fictional cases are a great practice for students. That's why I started the case study Monday. Every Monday, connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes, I share case studies and tips to just help you if you're practicing or if you're a student preparing to go. Try building your own fictional NCP, a case once a week. You are interested in mother and child. Build a fictional NCP case and try to work on how you're going to do it. It boosts your confidence so that when you actually get into work or your attachment or your internship, you'll be able to properly apply. So that's all I had for this pre-recorded webinar session. Follow me on all my social medias, but connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where Diabetic Desk is best. But I'm also sharing insulin resistance series on my social media platform every Friday. So follow me so that we can connect. So until next 2 weeks to come, we'll look at something else, as if I'll bring a guest or I'll record something for you guys to watch. Until next time, I'll be yours. Bye.